Oh, there you are. If I look leaner, it's because I lost 25 pounds. And not that I'm gloating or anything, because I had been working to actually gain more weight than I was up to 185. I wanted to go up to 200. And that was my delusional bigorexia at work, thinking that I was going to want to look like a superhero and carry 30 or 40 pounds of extra muscle tissue around, theoretically for the rest of my life, which is the most counterproductive thing I'm realizing one can do for one's health and long-range longevity prospects, because what you're doing is consuming your very life energy, which is the calories that we burn at a much faster rate. And the closest animal model that would help illustrate this are the giant breeds of dogs, which are forced to consume twice as many calories from day one of their lives, and thus grow much bigger, and are forced to burn through their allotment of calories in a shorter period of time. See, it's not so much the time, it's not so much years that were allotted, it's calories that were allotted. And the quicker you burn through your total amount of calories that you're given, the quicker you will die, necessarily. That is a fact. And you can see the diseases of aging begin in dogs, at a much younger ages than they would in other dogs. And then the dogs are dead. Have you ever seen a 10-year-old Saint Bernard? Probably not. Or Great Dane? Probably not. They die 6, 8 years old, which is about half the lifespan of a normal dog. And so you can do the math. You consume twice the calories, you're going to live half the time. And the science of caloric restriction has shown this for years. The science of longevity and the experiments, every single one that's been done on animal models, shows that restricting from fruit flies to and inchworms all the way up to, now they're doing it on chimpanzees, but it has been shown, and it just makes so much logical sense, that the fewer calories that an organism consumes, the longer it lives, period. And so what we're shooting for is caloric restriction with optimal nutrition, and that is something that should be clear to anybody that has a logical mind and knows anything about science, because I don't think that the animal models that show that caloric expansion, which is exactly what bodybuilding is, leads to early death in dogs. And it is, it's been shown to cause heart disease, at a very young age. So all the diseases of aging, in fact, are brought on that much sooner by carrying excess muscle mass, and especially if that muscle mass is facilitated by the use of steroids, of course, which are a separate layer of oxidative load that is also compromising your cardiovascular system and your lipid profiles tremendously. And I don't care whether it's TRT or not. If you are running a cycle all the time and pushing your testosterone levels up to the high physiological range in order to carry around this muscle mass, you are doing damage to your cardiovascular system, and you know this. You're just saying, well, it's not that much damage. And this goes out to you, Doucette, and you, more plates, more dates. Derek, I'm not sure why a bright lad like yourself would be carrying any more muscle mass than needed. I mean, it may help in finding a mate, I admit that. It's sexy as hell, and I wanted it for many years, I looked forward to this first cycle, which of course was my first big cycle, and thank God my last. I've seen the light. Even if I were genetically blessed, like, let's say, that gentleman Scooby, 61, is very genetically blessed, and I believe him 100% when he says he's natural, when he naturally acquired 20 or 30 pounds of muscle tissue over the course of 10 years. And then at the age of 40, his gain stopped, but he's still built an incredible physique that he's now able to carry into old age legitimately without having to dose TRT, although come to find out, Scooby was actually clinically low in testosterone and has a legitimate need for TRT, I suppose, although it could be argued that the lower testosterone a man has, the better, because there are a host of negative physiological complications that result from running high testosterone, and especially running any excess body tissue is necessarily, Doucette likes to talk about all this muscle mass that he's able to carry and has worked so hard to, acquire. And I agree that it's quite an accomplishment, quite an achievement, but are you willing to take 10 or 20 years off your projected lifespan because you're carrying around all this muscle mass? And, those are not just 10 years, 20 years off the end. They are going to, that kind of wear and tear is going to result in all the diseases of aging coming on sooner, 10 to 20 years sooner than they would have otherwise. And I believe that is almost a certainty. Even with good nutrition, you can't compensate for the massive extra oxidative load that carrying part of another man's body on your body is causing you, Greg. And I don't know why, as a man as, smart as yourself, and as I'm knowing that you have aspired to live to an old age, why you would be running this massive amount of extra muscle tissue if what I say is true, and I think it's undeniably true, that caloric expansion leads to premature aging, and obviously it leads to early death, just like caloric restriction does the reverse. It can actually, and I believe there are people that have, when begun early enough in one's life, can push out the maximum lifespan beyond where it's ever been before, and I think that'll start happening more and more in the 21st century. I think that much is, predictable. But anyway, both Derek, Dr. Derek as I call him, and Greg Doucette are carrying, and Vegan Gains for that matter, although he's doing it in a more healthy way as a vegan, they're all carrying excess muscle tissue, and they all have bigorexia, and they have it bad, even though Richard Vegan Gains, who I respect deeply, and I would like to bring to God because I have some stories about my recent mystical experiences and my relative lack of fear of death that's resulted, even though I might have liver cancer, I'm hoping I don't, but, we can talk in abstract terms still because I've yet to receive diagnosis, but the pain has been there for months and whatever. But moving right along, I have no fear because something miraculous happened to me and for me by God, and I lost my fear of death, and it's just that simple. I'll tell you about it sometime, but my main thesis point here is extra muscle tissue leads to premature death, and why would you want to carry any more than had some practical value in your life? The only people who really need it are the movie stars playing roles and the athletes playing roles, in the popular imagination, in the blood sports and in the whatever. That there is some practical value to having a huge amount of muscle tissue in those cases, but other than that, I can't see any reason other than young lads trying to attract mates, which it's a great for, but as soon as you get married, you should be letting that muscle tissue go away, and you're doing your loved ones a disservice if you don't, I declare, because you are going to get old and show all the wear and tear and haggardness that comes with old age sooner in your life when you're running a huge amount of muscle tissue, and you can even do the math. Like if you're carrying 20% more than what would be your set weight, which is what you would weigh if you never worked out, right? You're going to live 20-30% shorter time. That's just the facts, right? Let's do the math with dogs. Great Danes are twice the size of normal dogs, and they live half the time, right? It's very simple. There is a certain number of calories that any given organism is given to consume during their lifespan, and the more quickly they burn through that caloric energy, the quicker they die, because you could almost do the math and say, well, a human being uses up about 80 million calories during their lifetime, so each calorie amounts to a certain amount of time, right? And the more sparingly you use them, the longer you will live, necessarily. There it is. I am Lifespan Fitness, hoping that I have a long lifespan, and hoping that you do too. And all my videos about how easy and fun it is to eat healthy are available right down below. Please like and subscribe, and help me and my family. Yay! Bye. God bless. Mwah.